Eddie Howe's thinking, these Newcastle fans, they're ready to explode.
Welcome to the Toon Takedown YouTube channel. Please like, subscribe and share with the Toon Army as we take down the anti-Newcastle narratives from the pundits and media. Gabby Agbonlahor has already got Newcastle staring at an embarrassing season. Apparently we've gone 4, 5, 6 giant steps backwards in the Toon Army. We're supposedly ready to explode. That's some amount of doom to squeeze out of one difficult period at Newcastle where nobody needs to pretend everything has been perfect. There are, of course, concerns. There's a massive difference between questioning the Newcastle are heading and practically writing their batua before the season has died.
Then what probably affected Eddie Howe is you go in for Munoz. It's nearly done. He goes to Liverpool. You go in for Manzambi. Nearly done. He goes to Aston Villa. I think he comes to a stage as a manager like Eddie Howe thinking, okay, we finished in 12th position last season. And I've lost Tonali, Gordon, and Guimaraes is going. The players that are coming in are youngsters, not proven. I could have an embarrassing season here at Newcastle. Affects me as a manager going forward, my CV. Why would you stay in the job? Do you know what I mean, Andy and Charlie? Like, you got to agree. Why would you?
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense.
But Gab,
hang on. We've gone from Newcastle having serious rebuilding what to do to why would Eddie Howe even stay? That's a hell of a jumper. And this is where the new conversations about Newcastle always seem to lose the plot. You can say the squad transition has been difficult. You can say important players have gone. You can even question whether the rebuild has been handled well enough or completely fair. But an embarrassing season? Before the newer version of this, Newcastle said has even properly established itself. That's not analysis. That's getting halfway through a story and decided you've already read the ending. But apparently Eddie Howe should be looking at his CV and thinking, best get out of here before this lot ruins me. Why? Your castle haven't suddenly ceased to exist as a football project because I've hit turbulence. Who's been through a difficult periods at Newcastle? That's part of managing a club. Trying to break into territory occupied by teams who have been financially established there for years. There are questions. Let Newcastle actually answer a few of them first. Because talkSPORT wasn't finished there.
and Eddie Howe has come to the point where he's gone, do you know what, I ain't restarting this because the players that are coming in are not good enough to get this football club back to the Champions League. Because what you've got to remember is, I said this to Andy earlier, no other club wanted Bruno Guimaraes before he come to the Premier League. It was only Newcastle. He got that group of players together, Alexander Isak. Next minute, he gets them into the Champions League. Yes, they win the League Cup. Memorable days winning the Champions League, games, etc. Now they have taken almost 4, 5, 6 giant steps backwards now. And what's need to be remembered also, when he took over in that November time, they were 19th in the Premier League. And without Eddie Howe there, unfortunately, it looked like there was only one direction that football club was going.
4, 5, 6 giant steps backwards, pick a number, man. What does that even mean in football tale? Because the difference between saying Newcastle have lost ground and talking as though everything about under Eddie had been bulldozed overnight. A setback doesn't automatically ease progress. A rebuild doesn't automatically mean regression. And losing important players doesn't mean the entire project has just been reversed back to where Howe found it. I see a bet Newcastle support should be pushing back on. Concern is legitimate. A premature obituary isn't. Because once you've decided Newcastle are apparently sex and almost steps backwards, where are they supposed to be? Back fighting relegation? Back before European football? Back before the expectations change? Why, that's why the wording is so overcooked. Newcastle's project should absolutely be scrutinized, but you don't measure a rebuild properly while the paint is still wet. And then we get on to the supporters, and this one will sound very familiar.
I think as well, it was getting a bit toxic, wasn't it? You could hear the fan base in the games, and Lewis Hall wasn't playing, and Gordon was getting subbed, and Eddie Howe's thinking, these Newcastle fans, they're ready to explode, so I'm not going to go into this season, and then the players aren't good enough, I'm not getting the results, then I'll leave maybe after 10 games. I think Eddie Howe's done the right thing.
Yes. The Newcastle fans ready to explode because apparently wanting your football club to show ambition is now evidence that you're permanently 2 defeats away from storming the gates. Where support was frustrated? Well, somewhere. Why wouldn't they be? Football fans react when performances disappoint them. They react when players leave. They react when the club looks like it's moving slower than they expected. Welcome to football. But Newcastle supporters seem to get treated differently. At the Villa club, it's cold standards. At Newcastle, suddenly we're unstable, demanding, and impossible to please. Look at them, they're ready to explode. No, the Toon Army has watched the ambition around this club increase and expectations have risen with it. That doesn't mean every complaint is correct. It doesn't even mean every supporter reaction is sensible. But passion and frustration aren't the same thing as toxicity. And supporters asking whether Newcastle are progressing quickly enough isn't some character flaw, but football fans, they won Newcastle even football matches. Revolutionary stuff, lads. And what makes us her argument even stranger is that a couple of minutes later, Agbonlahor identifies Newcastle supporters what have been saying for ages.
Yeah.
Because people laugh about these FSR, whatever they're called, financial fair play rules. They're a joke. Look at Aston Villa, right? Finish in the top 4, win the Europa League, and then your best player, Morgan Rogers, leaves. Why can't Aston Villa keep hold of their best players and then say, we're going to get to spend 150 mil like Chelsea, Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal, and then why can't we go and challenge for the title? These rules, they're there to keep the so-called top 6 there.
Now that Newcastle fans can actually understand, because he's acknowledging the difficulty to our club and clubs like Aston Villa face trying to break permanently into an established elite. The revenue gap exists, the financial regulations exist, and there are structural barriers growing quickly. So if Gabby understands all of that, why is Newcastle having difficulties treated like some shock and collapse? That's the contradiction. You can't spend 1 minute explain how difficult the system makes it for challengers and then spend the previous 5 acting astonished that Newcastle haven't travelled from takeover to permanent title contender without hitting a bump in the road. Newcastle absolutely have work to do. Nobody watching this channel needs fairy tales. If the clubs get things wrong, we'll see. If Patai's Jasso gets it wrong, we'll see it as well. Thanks for watching, and please share this video with the Toon Army as we continue to dismantle the anti-media narrative on Newcastle United. But embarrassing season, 6 giants step backwards, the Toon Army ready to explode? Not so fast. Ask the questions, create size of decisions, keep the pressure on. Just don't bury Newcastle before they've played their way out of the hole you've already dug for them. Gary in talkSPORT has put the production on record, and around here, we'd even forget, man.